Welcome to another episode from your favorite nail tech. Back live and local here at the headquarters. And for this episode, we have Sal. Now, I just recently purchased this hand, and I'm excited because this hand is going to help us do a lot of amazing things. As far as me sharing my knowledge here on YouTube with you guys, doing more long-form content. And I'm thinking of a name and I'm like, okay, we're going to call you Sal. Sal is going to be here today for this episode, helping us out because I have some special things planned. Now, before we get started, if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on the post notifications to continue to keep up with the headquarters and learn some really amazing things. We got Sal tattooed. Let's rock and roll. Now, I am not a girl who knows everything. I just know some things, and the things that I do know, I just want to come on here and share, hoping somehow, some way, somewhere this helps somebody. For this episode, we will be doing an in-depth tutorial on PolyGel. Now, here at the headquarters, I use two nail enhancements, and that is acrylic and PolyGel. Acrylic tutorial is already out, so make sure y'all go and check that out. Now, here's the PolyGel. First thing we're going to dive into, prep. Clean, make sure the hands are clean. You push the cuticles back, you cut cuticles if that's what you do at your headquarters. Then you go in with the e-file remove natural nail shine and prepare the nail for the nail enhancement. We are, just for the sake of time, going to pretend that I push the cuticles back, I cleaned the nails, I cut the cuticles and all the good stuff. Now we're going to actually move on to using the e-file to remove the natural nail shine. Now, personally, I do use a 120 sanding band between like 120 and 180. Those are kind of fine. You don't want to really use nothing below 120, honestly, because 80, 60, all of that, those are very coarse and those are very harsh to the natural nail. So here at the headquarters, I do stick between a good 120, a 180, sometimes a 240. Those are more smoother and finer bits that will not hurt the client's natural nail. We want to remove the natural nail shine. We want to get in the cracks and crevices. We do not want to be too harsh on the natural nail. Now, if you don't know, our natural nail already produces its own natural oil. And you see how Sal's nails are glistening and shining under that ring light. They are natural, they are healthy, but we do want to go in and remove natural nail shine in order to prep her nails correctly for the nail enhancement, to get it to stick and adhere better to a very chalky surface. Also, my e-file is on the lowest setting. Why? Because this is the natural nail. We're going to treat it like a natural nail. We're just going to pretend this is a human. So my e-file is on the lowest natural setting. I am making a few passes and we're just going to treat that top part, which I'm going to leave shiny, as the cuticle. I'm being sure to keep an eye out, making sure I'm not going over and doing too much. Why? Because that could hurt the client. Their natural nail is exposed. I'm being sure that I'm keeping the e-file moving at all times. Why? I do not want to cause a heat spike. The e-file is moving. Had it be kept in place, it can cause friction. That could really hurt. And I'm just nicely, very lightly going over the natural nail, removing the natural nail shine. You don't want to go digging in there and getting down in there. You're probably not going to get it all, but just majority of it. You can tell like it's shiny. I'm just going to go in right here with a few passes. Boom. Getting the job done. We're not going to go digging in the nail and extra hard. We're just gonna lightly, even if you're heavy-handed, I'm kind of heavy-handed, but I know how to ease up, especially when you're doing this step right here, because it could go very bad very quickly. So again, we're just gonna lightly go in, remove that natural nail shine. We've already cleaned the nails. We're just gonna go in, remove that natural nail shine, preparing this nail for a good nail enhancement. As you can see, I am using my fingers as a guide. I'm rotating the nail. That is why it's very important that clients are relaxed. That way you can rotate the nails, get where you need to get. You can eyeball it and make sure you looking and paying attention to what you're doing. Nails are clean. The natural nail shine is removed. The cuticle still looks good. As you can see, that little shiny part at the top, we're going to treat that as the cuticle once again. Now it's time for tips. We're going to apply the tips and we're going to prep the tip. Now for this episode, we are going to be using a duck tip. And I do want to say, no matter the shape, the size, all of that, it's still kind of the same prep. Now, you do have to be mindful and be careful. A lot of nail beds are not the same. Sal has a more open nail bed. The cuticle is kind of back. Side walls are not as narrow. So you kind of want to just go based off the nail beds and how everything is structured on the client's hand. As for the tip, you want to apply that tip right at the smile line. You don't want the tip to be darn near to the cuticle. You want to apply that tip right at the smile line. If you're dealing with a nail biter or however, still just come down to the little small edge that they have. But for the most part, the smile line and that free edge where the nail is, you just want to kind of apply that tip. The nail does not need to go in the middle of their nail, by the cuticle, none of that. It needs to come right down to that smile line. That is where the natural nail and the artificial tip needs to meet. So we have a good prep going on. We got the natural nail shine removed. We're applying the tips. And they're fitting sidewall to sidewall. They're not hanging off. It's not too much on one side. You want to make sure that it is comfortably sitting and fitting to the nail. So we're moving on. Now we have the tip applied. Now it's time to blend the tip and the natural nail. Now, this could also harm the client. Why? Because somebody is probably going to feel like they need to drill extra hard to get that tip seamless, and you don't. My drill, my E-file for better words, is on the lowest setting, and you see how I'm getting the job done. Please, when the natural nail is exposed or anytime you're about to go near the cuticle or go near the skin, use the lowest setting. Too fast, too quick, too bad. Just gonna go in lightly and blend that tip with that natural nail. I can almost assure you, you do not need to be moving fast, and just continue to keep an eyeball on it. Move their nail from side to side. Again, this is important. Why? Clients should sit still and they should be relaxed. You need to be eyeballing. You need to be able to move their finger around and rotate it, look side to side, adjust as you need to. So just, if they're moving around, remind them, hey, I need you relaxed and I need you sitting still while I got this moving drill in my hand. Now, this part is completely optional. You do not have to C-curve your tips like I do. But again, I just choose to do this. It's never going to change. Something about that C-curve. I'm living for it. Moving right along. The tips on and prepped. Now it's time for dehydrator and primer. We dusted the nails. Now I'm just going to go in right here with my dehydrator, which is alcohol, because alcohol is a natural dehydrator. Now, between primer and dehydrator for me always comes first. I always use 70% alcohol. You can use whatever dehydrator you choose, but here at my headquarters, we're going to use alcohol. After that, I'm going to go in right here with my primer. Now, the primer that I use, it will not always leave that wet look. Sometimes it dries up and it has that chalky resurface. So don't think like, oh, did you even prime the nails? Because I know somebody is going to think that, and I know somebody is probably going to ask me that. Yes, I did prime the nails. Somehow, some way, it just has that effect where it's going to resurface and it's going to have that chalky look. So we used my dehydrator, which is 70% alcohol. Then we went in with the primer, the liquid primer, which is no lift nails, can be found on Amazon. Now we're going to go in with this gel primer. Now this can be called foundation gel, base gel. I call it gel primer. Why? Because it is being put on before the nail enhancement. But any of those terms work. So like I said, this is my PolyGel prep. It's almost similar to my acrylic prep. Only thing is, this step right here, me applying this foundation gel, is the only extra step that differs the two. With acrylic, same steps, but you would not put a base gel down. You, after dehydrator and primer, you will go right into applying that acrylic. For PolyGel, it's an extra step because you have to put this down. It is recommended that you use foundation gel when you're using gel products, as 3D modeling gel, PolyGel, builder gel, like all of that. It is recommended that you use the foundation gel. Do you have to? That's a decision you make at your own headquarters. Here at my headquarters, we are going to use this foundation gel. Let me say it again before we close this segment out. This is the only step that differs the two. Acrylic, no foundation gel. PolyGel, foundation gel. That's it. That's all. Now, moving on to actually applying the nail enhancement. Again, the choice for this episode will be PolyGel. Now, there are probably hundreds of brands out there of PolyGel. I do know a few. At the headquarters specifically, we use Seveland and another brand called Goy. Those are just the 2 brands that I personally like for myself. Now, we have a good prep going on. We got the base gel cured and applied. It's ready for the nail enhancement. It took 2 weeks for that to come out the tube. So now we're back to regular scheduling. No, seriously, if it's cold in the room, it's probably going to be a little stiffer. If it's hot, then the PolyGel is a little bit runnier. It's able to move and be, like you need it to be. The weather is so flip-flop, so it is kind of cold in the headquarters right now, but we're gonna make it work. With PolyGel, it's really nothing but a push and pull game. Like, you're really just tapping it around, tapping it into motion, and Now, I am using this generous amount. I do kind of tend to apply thicker products, whether it's acrylic, PolyGel. I just apply thick products. But with PolyGel, you want to apply just the right amount. So I applied this bigger bead because the nail is kind of long. But if it was shorter than this, we would only do just a little bit. That way it cures through and through. Now, I am using 70% alcohol as my slip solution. You can use slip solution at your headquarters, but at my headquarters as slip solution, we are going to use 70% alcohol. Now, this is going to be a 1 bead method. And with this 1 bead, I am going to build a great structure. Now, I've already kind of created this little lump structure at the top. I've pulled it, I've made it into a ball at the top. So that way I have nothing to do but to kind of pull off that to create the bottom of the nail. I'm just pushing it to the cuticle. We're not going to put it on the cuticle. I want to put it right at the cuticle. Why? Because I have to still go in and seal the nail enhancement. If it's on the cuticle, there ain't nothing, you ain't calling for nothing but cut up and bleeding. So if I put it right at the cuticle, I still got room to kind of wiggle in there with my e-file and get in there and seal it without harming the client or the natural nail. If I ever talk off key, you can just watch the video just to kind of see how I'm moving and grooving with it. It does help that the product is cold because it's kind of like stiff a little bit. You can kind of get it in there versus it being kind of runny and sticky. Is like, dang, I can't even work with it. Now, I'm not saying make yours extra cold or extra warm. I'm just telling you what's going on right here at my headquarters. So again, I'm just pushing, I'm pulling down just a little bit. You don't want to really drag it because that'll take away from your structure, and it is gel. So the harder you pull on it, the more the structure is going to deplete itself. So you just want to kind of pull at it a little bit. I've created my structure at the top. Now I just want to take that midsection and kind of flush half of that to the bottom and still keep what's going on at the top at the top. We want the entire structure to be even. I don't want it too big at the bottom, little at the top. I don't want it too big at the top, too little at the bottom. I want it even all the way through and through. That will prevent chipping and lifting in most cases. Now, again, I am a very heavy-handed person, so sometimes I can get a little carried away and I can start bothering my structure if I start pulling on it too much, but I am learning to just lightly pull at it. Your brush, the alcohol or whatever you're using, slip solution, will do its job. You just lightly pull at the product. And now we can go in and check out the full structure. It is structured all the way from the top of the cuticle all the way down, even in the midsection, even down to the free edge. It is not flat, not too big at the top, little at the bottom. It's all the way through and through. So that's what you want. That's the look you want to go for. Again, this is a 1 bead method. I applied enough product for it to be evenly dispersed throughout the nail, on the entire nail bed and the extra artificial tip, for it to be evenly dispersed all the way from the cuticle to the midsection, even down to the free edge. That is what you want. Now, for somebody who probably doesn't use PolyGel, it is tricky. Before I kind of got this good with it, it was very tricky. I didn't like it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to stick with my acrylic. But keep learning, keep practicing, and I promise you will get it. We're going to go through with this other color, but we're just going to do the same thing over. Now, I do get a lot of questions, mainly on my TikTok, because that's where I've been showing PolyGel at, and my Instagram, about like nails lifting and chipping. And I just want to say to that, check on your prep. If you're saying I'm doing the same prep you're doing, okay, it may be the products. Okay, if it's not the products, sealing the cuticle maybe. Check on all those avenues, because you'd be like, oh, I'm doing your same prep. Okay, it may be the products. If it's not the products, then it may be something else you may have to check on, like your foundation. How are you building the PolyGel and all that good stuff. So I just want to say, before you say, oh, it's not working for me, I can't get it down pat, I just say check all avenues, continue to work with it before just throwing the entire product away and starting the PolyGel slander campaign. Now, here at the headquarters, I do tend to use both acrylic and PolyGel. Why? Because acrylic is really like a toxic boyfriend. Like, I love acrylic. Acrylic will always be my first love. But acrylic has a smell. It's really the monomer that has a smell out of this world that will give you a headache for enough for 2 weeks straight. As with PolyGel, no smell, but it can take a little minute because you have to cure and all that good stuff. But I've learned to work with both. So sometimes I use my acrylic for a full day. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, today is a PolyGel day. Just depends on how I'm feeling. If I want to be bothered with acrylic, I'll be like, okay, let's pull it out. If I want to, not deal with the headache or whatever, I'll be like, okay, today is a PolyGel day. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Now, another important fact about this, PolyGel does not cure on its own. Somebody asked me that in the comments not too long ago. It was like, oh, does this cure on its own? It does not. You have to put it inside your lamp, whether you're using a handheld lamp or the big LED lamp. You have to put it inside the lamp. I recommend the full time. I put it in there 120 seconds, just to make sure it's through and through. And I kind of run it twice. You don't want uncured gel sitting underneath the nail. That's bad. So you want to make sure you're doing a full run under the major, like big lamp, even if you're using your hand lamp. With my handheld lamp, it can probably go up to like 60 seconds. But with the big lamp, I do 120 seconds, and I do that twice just to make sure it's cured all the way. After applying PolyGel, for some reason, it still has a sticky layer after being cured. So we're just going to go in and clear that up with some 70% alcohol. You can use whatever alcohol is at your headquarters. We're going to use 70%. Does it matter? No, not really. Here, and we're just going to give the nail a good wipe down, just again to get that sticky stuff off and make sure it's cured all the way through and through. Moving on. Prep is done. Application is done. Now we're going to move on to the good part, filing. Now, here's a tip. After application, filing can be a bit tricky because sometimes people want to use the full speed on an e-file, and you just built a good structure. You don't want to lose the structure by taking too much off or filing too much in the wrong place, and now you're like, dang, my structure gone. I just took all that time building this structure and now it's gone. So my drill does not have numbers on it. My e-file, for better terms, does not have any numbers on it. I've been saying it for the longest, and I've actually shown y'all that. So I am using a mid kind of speed. We don't want to go too fast, too quick, too bad. That is a true statement. You just want to kind of go in lightly, seal the cuticle, get in the ridges, all that good stuff. Told y'all, do not put the nail enhancement on the cuticle. You just want to put it right at the cuticle. That way you still have wiggle room to kind of get in there and seal without coming in contact on the actual skin and causing a heat spike or cutting the client or hurting the client. I took time to build a good structure. I don't want to lose this structure, so I'm just lightly getting in there. As you see, I'm stopping in between. I'm eyeballing. I'm like, okay, a little bit on that side, a little bit on this side, more in the middle. Curve it up a little bit. All of those things, eyeballing. And I'm also using my fingers as a guide. You don't want to go too far down on the skin. You want to get just in there, just enough. And as you can see, I did nothing but shape it up. It did not lose its structure. It still has a structure from the cuticle, midsection, and down. It still looks good. That's what you want. Lightly go over it. That's why it's important for you to go ahead and prep your tip. If you want to C-curve, go ahead and C-curve it. You want the sides inward a little bit more? Go ahead and take them in. All of those things are important. That way you ain't really doing nothing but touching it lightly. You just shaping it up, really. That nail looks good. It's ready for a design. Moving on to the second nail. Even though it's glittery and all this good stuff, it's still the same way. Just gonna lightly go in. You don't want to foul too much. Don't have the e-file running at 1,000 miles per minute. You only need to be running lightly and almost barely, because you don't want to lose the structure. So I have Sal here at the headquarters. I do recommend, if you're still learning techniques, especially with your e-file and how to operate and how to work it, I say to get you a Sal at your headquarters. I think this helps. Even me, as good as I am, I still have to practice certain techniques. I still have to go in and re-educate myself on certain things. I'm always open to learning. I'm always open to admit, like, okay, I need to quit doing such and such, or I need to work on doing this better. Now, I'm not going to beat myself up like, oh, it should have been like this and I should have, but I will take notes, because each and every time I want to improve myself. So if a client felt like, dang, she was a little bit heavy-handed the last time, I'm going to ease up the next time. You feel what I'm saying? So that's just take pointers when you're doing it. You want to eyeball your structure. You want to say, okay, I did that. That didn't work. What can I do next? Don't just give up. Don't just give up. So now we have all the major parts out the way. Application, filing, all of that good stuff. Prep, we have all of that out the way. Now it's time for designs. Now after filing, I do give the nails a dust, and I spray them down with 70% alcohol again. It does not help the nails dry faster. It just cleans the surface for me, and that's just what I like to do. You are in luck, because here is an entire free French tip tutorial. Quick, simple, and easy. 2 lines, make them come together, make them love each other, make them meet in the middle. Then, without having to dip your brush 100 times to fill in the French tip, you can take your white brush from your gel polish, fill it in, clean it up with your nail art brush, moving on. That is one of the easiest things you can do. I'm going to get back on here with a like a basic nail art tutorial, just break down some things and just show y'all, like, nail art is not that hard. You just got to put your mind to it. But in order for you to see that, you must be subscribed, and make sure you like this video and leave a comment so I can continue to reach more people. That about wraps up this entire segment. I hope somehow, some way, somewhere, this has helped somebody along the way. And I don't know everything, but the things that I do know, I will come on here and share that with y'all. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. That's it. That's all, cousins. Thank y'all for tuning in.